It's noon here in Bethesda, Maryland, and this is news that you can use from YAA with your hosts, Zach and Ray. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Pops.
And the same to you, handsome.
How are you feeling today?
I'm not feeling 100%.
All right.
90, 92, 93%, somewhere around there. I don't know. I feel like I might be getting sick. I don't know. But I'm here, buddy. I'm here.
Well, we're glad you're here, but I definitely want to make sure you don't get sick. No one wants to see a sick Papa Shevska. We also don't want to see sick supply chains anymore and production lines. And unfortunately, we're going to be spending some time talking about the latest headlines coming out of Toyota. This came out 3 days ago now. They cut their full year forecast for vehicle production, which is not a good sign. So we'll spend some time talking about that. We also have, Dad, another car dealer suing an OEM. Wanted to spend some time chatting about that as well. And quarterly earnings. We got more quarterly earnings. We're going to talk about what's going to happen at GM and over at Hyundai. Sound good deal?
Yeah. I love the fact that you spend absolutely no time with me prior to the show so that I might know what we're talking about today.
Yeah, none.
Okay, good.
It's called Independent Study.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, before we do, let's just jump into the chat real quick. Good morning to Al. Good morning to April. Good to see you, Mike, Justice, Juan, Todd, Alex, Susanna's here with us. We got lots of folks with us, Pops. Ashley's here. Always love to see it. Let's jump into the Toyota news and start here first.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
The headline reads, Toyota to cut full-year production target on chip shortage. The automaker said it expects to lower its global production schedule amid global supply chain upheaval. Toyota had stubbornly clung to their goal of churning out nearly 10 million vehicles in their current fiscal year. That being said, they sadly are going to be decreasing the number of vehicles they expect to actually produce. As recently as September, Toyota said it wanted to manufacture 900,000 vehicles in September through November. Unlikely to happen. They actually think it's going to be closer to 800,000 for some of the months and 850,000. So we continue to see that Toyota struggling more than some of their peers because we've actually seen inventory levels at some of the dealers, or some of the OEMs increase.
What do you think it might be possible that the reason Toyota's struggling more than others is because, well, traditionally they've always produced more than others, so that they've needed more supplies than others, and when there's a shortage of supplies, well, it's going to impact those who produced the most?
I have a theory. I actually think that Toyota, unlike potentially some of their peers, is retaining some quality standards that they don't want to actually put crap on the road. That's my 2 cents on this one, because I agree with you. Magnitude's to scale. The more you need, the more challenging it's going to be.
Yes.
But also the more you need and the bigger the buyer you are, the more bargaining power you have. So you'd expect they'd be able to get what they want. I think it may have something to do with they want to make sure the highest quality product goes out on the road and they're not cutting corners versus, and I'm not just making stuff up, Ford is cutting corners. Hyundai and Kia are cutting corners. We will probably see more and more quarterly earnings that talk about increases in warranty work and recalls. Like, that's cutting corners as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. I don't know. I just, even though they're the largest manufacturer or one of the largest manufacturers out there, and that magnitude of scale allows them to almost dictate to their suppliers. But if their suppliers can't get the raw materials that they need to produce the parts that ultimately they end up shipping to Toyota, it doesn't matter that you're the largest in the world. It matters what every one of your suppliers can get their hands on.
100%.
And so, yes, you could say, hey, well, we're your biggest and best customer. And they'll look at you and go, we know you are. But if we can't get our hands on this stuff, we can't produce it for you.
Let's take a peek, Dad. 11 lines in 8 plants out of 28 lines in 14 plants are being suspended in Japan.
Okay.
So still massive. I mean, we could have led with a headline, which is more than 50% of Toyota's production offline. I mean, truly massive scale in terms of what's offline. However, that being said, let me scroll down. Right here, Dad.
Yes.
We had good news in August.
Yes.
In August, Toyota's global consolidated output climbed 40%. Again, we can lead with that, to 885,812 vehicles, riding a 61% surge in overseas production.
So that's, I guess the real production problems are hitting them hardest at home in Japan than they are, say, in North America or Europe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, without a doubt, those significant impacts to Toyota's production have been domestically in Japan. Overseas, they've figured things out a little bit better. That being said, all of those Asian brands are the ones that are struggling the most with
Yes.
inventory. Hyundai and Kia, Subaru, Mazda, the list goes on and on. Those are the folks that are struggling the most with inventory.
Absolutely. And it appears as if they will continue to.
All right, Dad, let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about Q3 earnings before we jump over to dealers suing OEMs, an always interesting topic. We have Cox Automotive's estimates for Q3 performance from Hyundai.
Yes.
The most important stuff here, in my opinion, the most important stuff here, one is, and we talked about this on a YAA YouTube video, provisions of $2 billion for major recalls. So again, when we talk about quality control, Hyundai Kia has over $2 billion that they've set aside just for the quarter in terms of losses that they expect because of quality control issues. We have sales increasing a little bit year over year for most of their brands, but most importantly, Dad, where is it? Yeah, here you go. Incentive spending. Let me zoom in here. Hyundai Motors / third quarter incentive spending by 76% year over year to less than $450 per vehicle.
Wow.
Among the lowest in the industry, according to Cox Automotive calculations, and well below the industry average of $1,000. $1,079 per vehicle. In contrast, the automaker spent nearly $3,500 per vehicle 5 years ago.
Yes. So 5 years ago, when they were producing good-looking but somewhat crappy cars,
yes,
with quality issues, it required them to incentivize their customers to buy those cars to the tune of about $3,500 per transaction. Today, they produce attractive looking, crappier vehicles.
And it only costs them $500.
And it's costing them less than $450 to convince people that they need to buy these good looking, but even crappier quality issue vehicles. Yeah. And then to have to set aside an extra $2 billion to cover these crappier, lower quality vehicles. I mean, that's a real issue.
I want to pull something up on the screen because it ties in with the Toyota news and what you just discussed about Hyundai as well. John says, is this deliberate to control price? And I've thought for the longest time, no, it can't be deliberate to control price. Did you see earnings coming out from TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, warns of weaker demand despite profit surge? Why would the world's leading semiconductor fabricator, producer, TSMC, manufacturer, thank you, say that demand is falling off when we have all of these automakers who are supposedly being impacted by the chip shortage? Does that doesn't compute in my mind, Dad?
Well, it does to a degree.
Yeah.
And here's the degree that I see it when it comes to the automobile industry. As we know, the chips that are used, the legacy chips that are used by most of the legacy manufacturers, are the older style chips that are the lowest profit margin chips. So the question that one would have to ask is what they're seeing in their sector. Is it the more expensive chips that are having weaker demand?
Yeah.
Are the higher technology items seeing weaker demand? Because my suspicion is that they're not building their business per se on producing the chips
for the automakers. Yeah, I get
exactly.
it. I totally get it.
Yeah. So that's and what it points out, if I may, is that demand for all goods is softening, except for the goods that we need to sustain life, per se.
Yeah.
So things like cell phones, televisions, appliances that are more of a want than a need. I think we're seeing a slowdown across the board in people spending the money for those want items as opposed to the need items. And if that's the case, then you are going to see weaker demand for those more expensive chips.
Definitely. I think that totally makes sense. Let's also, though, juxtapose it, Pops.
Oh, I love to juxtapose.
By the reality, which is if supply is lower,
yes,
and prices are higher.
That
average transaction prices across Hyundai Motors brands. Let's read this line for line, and then we're going to look at GM's next. This is damning. Hyundai Motors' average transaction price across its three brands was $36,408, up 9% from a year ago.
Wow.
A 9% year-over-year increase in Hyundai product cost. Genesis average transaction price was $61,643. Their G90, Dad, is nearly a $100,000 car for a Genesis.
Holy.
The Ioniq 5.
Yes.
Talk about EVs for a moment here. Considered a somewhat affordable EV, being well below average transaction price in the segment. The average transaction price for an EV is around $66,000.
Yes.
Had the highest average transaction price for the Hyundai brand at $54,662.
Showing just how affordable they really are.
Palisades rose 5% to over $50,000. And here's the kicker, Dad.
Yeah.
Elantras had the biggest percentage increase in average transaction price, up 11% to $27,200.
That's crazy.
The new average transaction price on the entry-level Elantra is a $27,000
That used to get
car.
you a nice Sonata.
Like Hyundai Kia's electric EV6.
If there was such a thing as a nice
Sonata, yeah.
Yes.
EV6 was at $57,000. Tellurides increased 3% to nearly $50,000. The Carnival minivan was at $44,000. And the Sportage,
yes,
which is their high-volume SUV,
yes,
had a 21% increase in average transaction price year over year to $36,620 for the entry-level high-volume SUV.
Well, there you have it. That would be enough to.
So are they maybe not producing enough? I don't know. The average transaction price is up 21%. I'd probably not produce cars too. My spend on incentives is down 7,000% or whatever the freaking math is, right? Like, it's not that hard to do the math. Let's look at GM really quick, and then we'll jump back to the chat. GM,
yes,
sales up 25% year over year.
Good for them.
Good for them. Let's scroll down. Incentive spending. GM drastically reduced incentives again in Q3. Total incentives were down 55% to an average of $1,353 per vehicle. The only one of these we're going to do this week that looks good is Stellantis, when it says like $3,000 per vehicle. Pre-2021 incentives for the quarter ranged from $4,700 to $5,500 per vehicle. So they've come down significantly. Buick incentives dropped the most, down 76%.
Wow.
GMC had the next biggest drop, down 64%. Chevy's incentives dropped 48%. Cadillac incentives dropped 57%. Let's look at average transaction prices, Dad. To get into a General Motors product,
yes,
you are going to pay north of $51,000. Let's just agree to call it $52,000 on average.
Okay.
By comparison, GM's average transaction price in Q3 of 2017 was $40,000.
So we're talking $12,000 difference in 5 years. Yeah. I guess stuff's just getting way more expensive.
Chevy's average transaction price is $48,782.
That's the entry-level brand.
That's the entry-level brand. Suburbans are up to $73,000.
Oh my God.
Tahoe's up 11%. The Silverado, is up 14% in average transaction price year over year. The Silverado is a $60,000 truck.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the question that I ask all the time. Who can buy these vehicles? Who can actually afford a Silverado pickup truck if the average transaction price is $61,000 or $60,400? How do you make a monthly payment on that? How do you? I mean, at a certain point, don't the prices have to come down so people can actually afford to buy them? Are there really enough buyers still out there at those prices that they can afford not to lower the pricing of the vehicles?
Seriously, isn't that wild?
Yes. I mean, between my Social Security and what you pay me, I make a relatively comfortable living. I could not afford to buy one of those pickup trucks.
No.
I could not afford to buy a Hyundai Ioniq 5.
No.
And I don't have a lot of expenses. Okay. And I'm a single person, not by choice. Okay. But, how do people that have a wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs and a cat, okay, how do they do it? I can't believe that there's enough people out there still that these manufacturers haven't said to themselves, we need to lower prices, damn it. We need to be able to become more affordable to more people. It's just beyond my comprehension. And there's nothing that indicates so far that those prices are going down. I think we might see that in the future.
Well, we are starting to see, to be clear, because of the lack of demand, and this is primarily driven by interest rates, we are starting to see dealers be more aggressive with incentives, and some of those are incentives that are funded by OEMs. We are seeing MSRPs skyrocket, like truly skyrocket. I had a gentleman, let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. I think I can. Give me a second.
We'll give you all the time you need, because, that's the kind of people that we are. We all understand that these shows are not well planned.
So here's an example.
Yes.
This was sent in on Instagram, Dad.
Okay.
2023 Ford F-150 exclusive $4,000 off MSRP promotion.
Wow.
Okay, so that's in my Instagram DMs. And then there was also this. I think it's this one. Yep. Here, Dad. That is the base price of a Dodge Challenger in 2020. Yes. MSRP $38,995. Base price of the same Dodge Challenger in 2022, $45,845.
Just up $7,000.
Yeah. You're not gonna be able to read that. I'll have to pull it up on the screen here. But that's exactly what we're seeing is MSRPs are going through the roof. Yes. Through the roof. So average transaction prices, of course, are still going up, and that's partly a result of dealer markups.
But average
MSRPs.
Transaction prices are based starting off of MSRP. If the MSRP's gone up $7,000, then of course the average transaction price is going to go up quite a bit.
Yeah.
If the MSRP had stayed at $35,000 or whatever, $38,000, then of course average transaction prices wouldn't have gone up nearly as much.
Yep. All right, let me pull this up on the screen. I've got it here on my computer now. At least I think I do.
Well, gosh, we hope you do.
Documents? Oh, I don't know. There it is. Let me pull it up on the screen so everyone can see. This was that Challenger that I was talking about a moment ago. 2020, $38,995 MSRP. 2022 at the bottom, $45,845. And we're seeing that with all the OEMs.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
All right, let's jump back to GM and talk about average transaction prices there just a bit more. So, for example, Dad, Cadillac.
Okay.
Holy sh! The average transaction price of an Escalade is $111,000. Oh, that's the ESV. Excuse me. The regular Escalade is $108,000.
Oh, okay. That's certainly much more affordable.
The CT4 had the biggest rise of 12% to $53,800. Let's look at GMC. The Yukon XL is a nearly $80,000 SUV. The regular Yukon's only a $76,000 SUV. And the Sierra, which just was announced in EV form for 2024, Dad, saw a 13% increase in average transaction price for your classic $70,000 price point on your new truck. Buick, the Enclave was the only model to increase in price year over year. A Buick now costs $53,000.
There is something wrong.
Yeah, there is something very wrong. All right, let's look in the chat here, Dad, and respond to a couple questions.
Okay.
Matthew says, what does this mean for buying a used Toyota in 1 to 3 months? The fact that on the new car side, they're cutting their forecast for production, I don't think it really means anything. You should still be looking for used car deals between now and the end of the year.
Yes. Certain brands, the used car deals won't be quite as good as other brands. And if new car inventory levels are still in short supply for most of your Asian brands, and they are, then I would think that the used car pricing and the used car deals won't be quite as good for those brands as say some of the other brands out there.
Yeah, like still Stellantis products are going to be the cheapest.
But that doesn't mean that you can't find good deals. It just takes patience and persistence.
And let's do it. We do it all the time on this show. Let's do a quick search. Let me share the screen. We're going to joinyaa.com, and we're going to.
I thought I was a member already.
We're gonna look for a Toyota. Let's do a Camry. Let's change this.
You need a different browser. Mouser, damn it.
All right. Go to the car search, and if that happens, email me. God. All right. So don't buy a Toyota right now. No, if you can find yourself a Toyota, we're actually even starting to see some incentives. We saw that deal. What was it? We talked about it on Saturday night. Man, I think that was a RAV4 LE under MSRP.
Yeah.
No, we're seeing deals. Kristen says, and this ties back to what we were talking about earlier. There's a local news report here in Pittsburgh saying car makers are moving to this new model to maximize profits. What you guys have been saying all along.
So since you're from Pittsburgh, that means Yin's going to pay more for these cars.
Yin's is going to pay more.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. All right, Dad. And then we have this
Yin's
from
going to go downtown and get some pop.
LMG. I'm interested in a 4Runner in Maryland. Was going to wait till end of the year. Should I pull the trigger sooner? If you're a cash buyer, wait. If you're a finance buyer, pull the trigger.
Yeah, because interest rates are just going to continue to go up. The expected increase on November 3rd from the Fed is another 75 basis points, which ultimately will be translated into higher auto loan interest rates and mortgage interest rates.
And I bet you we see credit availability continue to decline as a result of these quarterly earnings where loan loss provisions continue to go up. Banks are going to be less likely to want to loan.
And the other thing is that the amount of applications has been dropping, number one, which would indicate that there's less demand, and the amount of loan originations has declined, which further indicates that that indicates one of two things: either that there's less demand, or that there's less qualified people trying to finance a vehicle. So you can already see the signs are out there already that there is a massive slowdown coming in customer demand for new and used cars.
Yeah, it is very clear. And that is why, honestly, now more than any time so far this year, a YAA membership makes sense. Even if you don't become a member and you just use the 90-day car buying program, if you go to joinyaa.com, we're doing the video consults, but just scroll down. We've got our YAA Plus membership till the end of this month, 50% off if you become a YAA Plus member. Read the different success stories. Watch the video here to understand what you're getting yourself into. And then, of course, the car buying program, $60 gets you the 3 months of help, one-on-one consults, the community forum. Everything is here at your disposal, not to mention the fact that you can get your insurance, you can sell the car, you can get the warranty. Everything's there back at joinyaa.com. Good resources for you. Now, Pops.
Yes.
Do we make this a really you gotta be kidding me, or do we not? I'm kind of on the fence.
Well, I put something in the really you gotta be kidding me show topics today, but I don't remember what the heck it was.
All right, give me a second. Let's see. What did Pops put in the really you gotta be kidding me show topics?
Scroll down.
Okay, we'll do this. Is really you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Give me a second here. Oh man, Dad, you did a good job finding this one. Here we go.
Did. And we could thank Alex. Really? You gotta be kidding me. Our friend Alex, Alaska Sound guy, he sent this to me this morning.
Pay up. GMC Hummer EV taillights cost $6,100 to replace.
Yeah, it's just a simple. Well, maybe it's not a simple bulb, apparently. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, they are really interesting taillights. They can like show animation and stuff. And so when you spend that $120,000 or $130,000 for your Hummer EV, there would be no reason to ever concern yourself with what, I don't know, the cost of some replacement parts might be for that overpriced 9,500-pound behemoth that you're driving. But taillight. Side taillight.
GM confirmed the price to car and driver and explained that each taillight houses a semiconductor to control animations and in turn drives up the price. Do you think, Dad? Go ahead.
They're going to need that microconductor to control the customer's animation when the service advisor says, "Oh, and by the way, that'll be $6,000 with all fees."
Dad, do you think a lot of folks recognize how expensive the vehicles? They're buying that expensive Cadillac, right? That new Escalade. Do you think they recognize how much they're about to spend over the lifetime of that vehicle and parts and labor?
No, but if things like that, I mean, really, you got to be kidding me that because you've made animated taillights, that to replace one it's like $6,000, with labor and parts and everything. I mean, it doesn't get stupider than that. Okay, it just doesn't. And that goes to that old saying I remember: boys go to Jupiter to get more stupid. Okay, so apparently most of these engineers are men, and so men go to Jupiter to get more stupider. Okay, to create. Well, yeah, we got to have a $6,000 tail light. I mean, who wouldn't want a $6,000 tail light?
Mike's got the right question. What's it cost to insure a Hummer EV? We work with all the major carriers. We don't write insurance policies ourselves. We work with the carriers. I would be curious to see what insuring a Hummer EV actually costs. I've got to imagine $1,000 a month at least.
Who knows? But it's just the whole idea behind all this is just so far-fetched in my mind that and I'm going to say this in a manner that I probably shouldn't, but it's so far-fetched in my mind that we would piss away so much money to be able to say, I bought a Hummer EV. And then actually, since I've pissed away that much money, I don't care how much more money I have to piss away to own it when stuff breaks. There is the level of stupidity in this country is, if it's not at an all-time high, it's certainly trying to get there. At a certain point, we just have to look around and go, what are we doing? Why? How does this possibly make any sense? Can't we come up with better ways for people to spend money that aren't so transient, that would allow them to really have a major impact in their life, other than saying, I just spent $250,000 so I could drive a Hummer EV.
Dad, don't say that word.
Just find a different goal.
But Dad, if you finance it for 120 months, then you're fine. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Because first of all, you're going to need to finance the taillight replacement for 10 years, for goodness sake.
All right. We're calling it a show there for today. We'll be back tomorrow.
Yes.
Noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. I hope that you feel better. We're going to end 3 minutes early so you can get tea in your system more quickly. Okay.
Yes.
That's the plan. Sound good?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We will be back here come hell or high water tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, with more news that you can use.
It's the last week for the promo. So please, if you're going to join YA, do it this week, 50% off. Thank you, Pops.
Now through next Monday.
See you guys.
Yep. Bye.